start with, but feel free to ask.
I'm pretty talked out at this stage, as you might imagine. That doesn't mean I can't respond, but I'm not.
In fact, I got one because OpenSpan is it's quite a new acquisition.
Yes.
And we see that that you are building something much more than just the
Robotics.
The robotics and so on. And I would like to add you cited your vision of Pega in 2 or 3 years. How do you see the future of Pega?
So this is really about end-to-end service and end-to-end execution to really optimize how organizations work with their clients. And the robotics, the OpenSpan, was an example of closing another open link where it was possible to really make something that historically has required people doing things by hand. Is that?
I think it sounds like it's playing.
It's playing. Is it playing or recording?
It's playing.
I thought it was just.
Yeah, I can hear it too.
Well, am I hearing things?
No.
Well, it's your keynote, so it was the same voice.
Repeat.
So OpenSpan is just a terrific opportunity to take something that's a real inconvenience and that's a real impediment to service and make it vastly better, quickly and inexpensively. So it made a lot of sense to bring in. But what I really like about the OpenSpan piece is it fits so naturally into the case management and the process automation, because if you do that sort of thing, if you do an OpenSpan or robotics without case management, you don't have a good audit trail about what you're doing. If something doesn't work perfectly, you've got no place to put it, right? And it's easy for things to break down. And this creates a very natural sort of wrapper to be able to make things work.
Mark Daniel saying that every connected device there is a customer. Do you say that behind every connected device there is a process or?
So I think behind every connected device there's an objective, there's a reason you're connected to it, there's a need. And that need is reflected in the processes and the rules and the history of how you interact with those devices. And so this idea of being objective oriented, what's the goal, what are we trying to achieve? When we attach at Philips, which you heard us talk about, you heard your own talk yesterday, when we're connected to a Philips Lifeline device that somebody wears around the neck, which is something we've now done for a couple of years, the objective there is to ensure that that patient is healthy, to make sure that if there are issues or even behavior changes, that you can actually discern it. I thought it was really interesting about that whole analysis of the risk of falling. That based on motion, I don't necessarily just need to react to a problem. I can tell from the way the person is moving if in fact they're having a bad day or maybe their blood sugar isn't high enough and we need to dispatch help even before an issue exists. And being able to do that with people is just a wonderful use of technology in general.
So it becomes more about anticipation as well, like not even like intelligent reaction, but as well like even waiting for.
I think that's a perfect way to describe it. It's the intersection of anticipation and resolve, right? I mean, it's being able to do things in that regard.
Alan, what are some potential use cases for robotics with Pega Marketing and CRM?
Well, I think the use cases range from what we showed at the demonstration yesterday, where if you have systems that are not like beautifully API connected, which we all know there are lots of systems that are not, this gives you a way to handle the systems that have good connections in the same time that you're handling the systems that don't, and optimize for both. So things like a name and address change, or things like even signing an operator into a multiplicity of systems, which we have one client who told us that just having the customer service rep sign into all the systems they need was taking 10 or 11 minutes twice a day, once in the morning, once at lunch. Being able to have that happen in a flash, in an instant, are examples, easy examples of great productivity improvement. So, we see many, many use cases.
It's like a manual API, or a human
It's
interface.
exactly like a manual. And the funny thing is, there are a lot of situations where that actually happens in industry. For example, the whole fintech world, people use that robotic type API to go into people's accounts at banks and pull information out so it can be consolidated. If you go to Yodlee or one of those other consolidators of information, you give it 5-6 bank accounts you might have and it will go and aggregate the balance. That's all done with a robotic type approach. What this does is it lets us tie robotics into the decisioning and the case management and the process automation. So it really lets us do it not just for one purpose, for whatever purposes the clients might have. So I think it's going to be very, very powerful.
I had a question on, just to get your thoughts on the Salesforce acquisition of Demandware, and the previous one was Silverbrick as they were filling out components to their cloud. Oracle's done the same, and SAP's done the same. Do you see at some point you guys going in that route, or continuing on kind of the page you're going?
Well, we do, once again, OpenSpan is an example of a $50 million acquisition we made, in the last 8 weeks. We have bought a set of companies to complement our products, and the thing that we commit to when we buy something is to make it so it really fits well into the architecture. So that means we need to be, in some ways, more careful than what you see with other firms. I mean, in reality, Salesforce has bought a collection. They've done 20-something acquisitions, and it's a real hodgepodge. Right, the products are built in different architectures. They're actually separate clouds. The Salesforce Marketing Cloud is a different cloud than the Salesforce Service Cloud and Salesforce Sales Cloud. How stupid is that, to tell you the truth? But I don't think it makes any sense.
Commercially, yes, this interest because you buy two access to a cloud.
You have all my clouds in the sky. I think that a coherent architecture is very important, and that does limit what we buy, but I think it adds to clients a lot. Relative to the purchase of Demandware, I think it's a little crazy to spend $2.6 billion on that company. I mean, I don't understand. 2.8 billion. I mean,
So they have a commerce portion. Oracle bought ATG years ago.
Right.
SAP bought Iris. Are you looking at those CPQs in commerce as?
So we already support commerce using the technology we have to mash up into a client's website. We're not looking, and I do not expect we'll be looking, to become the website itself. But we already have the ability to put offers on websites. We do that all over with our decisioning. And also to be able to take orders from websites, because we will fit into a little window, into a mashup on their website. A mashup, think if you go to a restaurant review and you see on the web page for the restaurant, you see a Google map and you see a YouTube video. Those are mashed up. Those are embedded but coming from a different source, but can be made to feel and look exactly like the same site. That's what our technological approach is to being able to do this sort of order management that an ATG or Demandware would otherwise do.
I've got 3 questions, but I'll start with one. And this sort of merges in with what has been asked. I mean, what other aspects of business and customer management is Pega yet to conquer and add into your system, presumably a future Pega 8 platform?
So I actually think we've now got a very robust ability to handle both the customer engagement side, but also the execution side. Because we come from the execution heritage. The Pega historically was seen as extremely strong in case management and business process management. With the acquisition of Cordiant in 2010, we added state-of-the-art decisioning, which we incorporated, and we made a big investment to make sure that that was incorporated in a good way. The thing I'm most excited about that we've just announced, which you're going to see us promoting very heavily, is this idea of the customer decision hub,
which is part of what Accenture spoke about.
Yeah, and I think Accenture's been a big partner and ally with us in doing some of this work. But it's a technology that lets you really bring together a lot of the customer insights to be able to do that omni-channel service, whether or not you plug it into a Pegasystem or plug it into systems or other digital channels that exist. So you're going to see us continue to build that out. That's a great release. I think we have a lot more work that we can do to continue to optimize that. The other thing that we're working on is the introduction of paid media into the decisioning. So today, when you go on to, if you were to go on to one of our clients' websites, the offers that we give them on that website are incredibly personal, incredibly one-on-one, and have tremendous results. Whether it's for one of our telco companies reducing churn, or for a company like Royal Bank of Scotland selling additional product, the results you get in that environment are unparalleled. However, those customers are spending, in some cases, hundreds of millions or billions of dollars collectively to buy digital advertising. And when you go to a digital advertisement, you see in a digital advertisement on a site like Financial Times or Yahoo, those advertisements, even if they know who you are, those advertisements are based on day-old or two-a-day-old retargeting. It's kind of like I recently bought a TiVo, a TV recorder that's popular in the States, and I went to the TiVo site and I bought it. And for the next 6 days, I would see TiVo advertisements.
There's nothing
everywhere
worse
I went.
than seeing ads for stuff you've already purchased.
You just
it's
purchased
annoying.
it. It's really annoying. But why is that true? It's because they don't have a decision hub that can operate truly across the channels. And the paid media channel is I think, one of the important things that you're going to see us doing.
Well, because they're wasting all that advertising. Yeah, it's annoying all around. What was your question?
No, I was just thinking about, I mean, you say like not the man base, the company, do you know them?
I do, yeah.
Because I think you're as well moving in that area then, like with targeting and retargeting, like following the whole customer journey, not only on the website of the company,
But we're not going to be. Sometimes they refer to what they call DMPs and DSPs, which are the things that do the bidding.
Yeah.
Right. We're not going to be
the knowing your customer,
knowing
the
your
insights,
customer.
and like personalizing everywhere.
So demand base would be an example of a terrific data source that we might use as part of that retargeting. As part of that related retargeting. But demand base is also used. I think there's a tremendous opportunity for companies marketing more effectively in both their own, what are called own channels, and the paid channels where they're buying advertising, by being able to use the decision hub that goes across the both of them when they know the actual client. And that's something that I think is done very badly now, and we have an approach to it where we will go in near real time and we will update all of the retargeting sites so that if you do something on the website, if for example you go to a website and you type termination fee on the website of the telco, it's pretty important, that British Telecom would love to be able to know that if you went to another site, not a British Telecom site, went to another site, that you'll get an ad that's really aimed at trying to retain you as a customer, because it's probably a pretty good sign that you're at risk of leaving if you have typed a termination fee, right, or something analogous to that. Being able to do that across the channels that include both owned and paid media is something that we're very excited about, and it once again takes this idea of customer service and expands it outside of the strict walls of the organization.
And here at PegaWorld, you said you are looking, or you have just the Fortune 500 companies. You are looking to be more attractive to the Fortune 2000, I think.
3,000 is the.
Or 3,000.
Well, yeah. So we've
what's the progress on that?
It's been terrific. So if you look at all the logos, we put up over 420 customer logos of customers who were here. You would have, there were a couple dozen of those that you would not have seen 2 years ago, and that reflect the opening up of our market. And so we're very excited by the progress of that, and we're hiring very rapidly to
Next step is
go after
10,000.
I haven't done the math past Fortune like 5,000. Those are still pretty big businesses, but the reality is we even have companies smaller than that come to us and are buying. There's a French company called Murex, which is in the they're a 600-700 million euro software firm located in Paris. They came to us, and they're a very successful user of our sales automation. technology. They looked at Salesforce and all the other guys, and they wanted something that was richer, something that was better able to handle the complexity of their processes. So we know we can continue to sell down to smaller companies, but I think that as a firm, one of the things we do well is we tend to be rather sort of methodical about the way we do things, because I always want to make sure that we can support the organizations who are buying the software. It's not just about buying the software. We don't actually give our salespeople, a chunk of their commission until they actually get it live. We don't just want them to sell it. We want them to actually sell things that go live. I think that's one of the important things. Bill, you have a question?
Yes, Salesforce has been mentioned a lot. People I've spoken to said a lot of the messaging from Pega seems to be very similar to that of Salesforce. Are you positioning yourself as another Salesforce or against Salesforce, or are you targeting them in a big way? What's the thinking there?
So, we have a lot of respect for Salesforce as a company that has a lot of marketing savvy.
You just think they're doing a lot of dumb things.
I think their marketing exceeds their technology. But I do think that they represent a worthy organization for us to target and compare ourselves to. And it's not just we who think that. If you look at the Gartner Magic Quadrant, we're there. We're not as highly rated across the board as Salesforce, but we're number 2. And so I think they're a worthy organization to poke at. We had an ad campaign which we ran last year, which very explicitly asked the question, can Salesforce do certain things that are important to the long-term growth of companies? And we had a very factual set of things, which is available on our website, you can see, where we think specifically Salesforce falls short in regard to things that will be important to organizations, maybe not day 1, but day 30, day 60, and as they grow. And that's actually where the Pega Can moniker comes from. We ask the question, can Salesforce, right now, can these folks do these important things? And the answer is that, well, Pega can. And I think we've gotten a number of clients to agree.
So are you setting Pega up as a direct competitor to Salesforce?
I think the market has set us up as direct competitors, because we are now in the sales, marketing, and customer service business with an application. 3-4 years ago, we were in those spaces, but really as a platform. But in the last several years, we have a out-of-the-box application for each of those that actually run as a single platform. So we don't need a separate marketing cloud from a sales cloud from a service cloud. You have a system that's able to do as much or as little of that as you want. And I think if you go by the booths and take a look, you'll see that that is very much a state-of-the-art system that has scored very well on direct comparison, not just with Salesforce, but with any of the participants in that program.
So you've spoken pretty openly about some of the things that clients will say when they've selected Pega over competitors like Salesforce, SAP, what have you. What are some of the things that prospects will tell you the reasons why they decided not to go with that?
Yeah, so I think there are some prospects that view their businesses as very simple and want something that is going to work extremely quickly and is not going to need much change. And I would actually tell those companies that they would be better off going with a Zendesk or a RightNow or a Salesforce, because we're an organization whose products are really geared for companies that want to differentiate themselves, for companies that want to build into their software the cases and the processes that will differentiate them. And if you're prepared to just have simple lists of, here are my list of prospects, here's my list of customers, here's my list of closed opportunities, if simple lists will do, where all of the intelligence is in people's heads as opposed to in the system, then we're not the right solution. We would be, I would tell you something that you wouldn't appreciate the things that we think are valuable or important.
On the other side of that question, and beyond the big set press releases with Allianz and Philips and Accenture, what other customer stories or experiences have really excited you most here, that maybe people were using things in a different or unique way, or something that's just really captured your attention?
Well, I think the Cisco story is a tremendous story with documented evidence of an organization that, despite being a user of a lot of our competitors' products, decided that to do the serious work of saving, they talk about 25% efficiency gains in record time. To do that, we believe, and they obviously decided, it needs a Pegasystem. And I thought that story was terrific. I actually like the Swedish unemployment office story, because when I first heard that the Swedish unemployment wanted to buy a Pegasystem, my reaction was, really? I didn't. But it turns out that they have a rather sophisticated need. They actually are running what's in effect a multi-tenant system, where their tenants are the different unemployment funds that each want to have their own slightly differentiated offering, or somewhat differentiated offering, differentiated in functionality, differentiated in look and feel, but the core guts of the system, wanted to be 80 or 90% the same, and that's a perfect use of our layer cake, right? Where you get to build something and then tune it for different markets. So another place where I think we really shine is with this patented layer cake technology, which is entirely geared for companies that want certain things to run the same way and want to vary them by group or unit or customer segment or product by defining the differences. And this whole idea of being able to define what's different and have that be reflected in the software, we think is really powerful. But ultimately, and I'd be interested in your guys' reactions, that perhaps dangerous little political reference I made to the 1992 Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, their campaign, where it was, it's the economy, stupid, right? We think it's the model at the end of the day. You're either model driven, where the system is writing the code, or you're doing this stuff by hand in a way where it keeps having to get thrown away. And the idea that having a model-driven architecture protects our customers against technological change that they can't even foresee now, I think is a very, very important and certainly unique difference between what you hear from us and what you hear from other companies. And we do believe that architecture matters. We do believe that that's ultimately what differentiates the evolving systems from what will become the next generation of legacy systems. And I see a lot of legacy systems out there that are, frankly, as hard to change, as awkward, as siloed, and as bad for the business as any old mainframe from 40 years ago, right?
So would that be the public sector working with government to try to drive some efficiency?
So we've actually had some terrific results in the public sector, and for example, HMRC, Her Majesty's Revenues and Customs in the UK, has more than 35,000 users of the Pegasystem, and they've reported tremendous efficiency improvements, but also improvements to accuracy, and we're used for dozens of systems. What I love there, by the way, is the CIO of HMRC, who I saw a couple of weeks ago when I was over there, a guy named Mark Durnley, has done a terrific, a brilliant job of actually creating his own Pega Center of Excellence and training his staff so that his technical and business people have real ownership of the way the system will change. And they're actually doing tremendous work. They've got a real vision about how to improve efficiency in government, and their financial results actually show it in terms of how they've improved their efficiency per pound collected. And we also work, by the way, with a bunch of the Australian agencies. We were recently selected, for instance, to do the new border protection system. Was just elected the Pegasystem, and we have a whole variety of references we could provide from an Australian point of view if you're interested. At least we can do those.
Can you elaborate a little bit on the...
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Can you elaborate a little bit about the future of the user interface? Will virtual reality, hologram become standard components of CRM system? What do you see what's coming next?
So I think that the user interface is going to continue to evolve a lot, because it will be both a combination of new devices with different size form factors, but also things such as possibly virtual reality, large screens that that you're going to want to take full advantage of. That there'll be new devices. The Google Glass didn't work, but maybe the next one will, and so you're going to see lots of opportunity, and that's why we think that the model-driven approach is actually so important. Because when a new device or a new generation of HTML, we have HTML5, and they've sworn that it's going to be HTML5 forever. Well, that's not true. Of course, there'll be a next generation. When things like that change, and you go from HTML5 and CSS3 to HTML6 and CSS4, people are going to have to rewrite all their systems if they're not or not take advantage of new capabilities if they're not model driven. So I do think we're going to continue to see the UI change in ways that are important. There are some examples of UI challenges that are just plain stupid. I mean, you have that beautiful Apple laptop there. Isn't it kind of silly that it doesn't have a touch screen?
True.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, so as new things come out, as new ways to interact, I believe that we're going to see the user experience change. But the best part is, when one of our clients creates a user experience to work on iOS on Apple, it automatically works on Windows Phone, if anybody has one. It automatically works on Android. Right? It automatically works optimized for the iPad. And if you get the bigger iPad, it will re-optimize itself for that landscape. And you can actually see examples of what we call the responsive UI right here on the floor. The thing that's cool is that that's not hard-coded into the HTML. That's in the model. And so as new capabilities come out, as the ability, as people have talked about, to have a screen not just on the front of your iPad, but the back of your iPad that has different information. You actually see this on certain phones that have two screens. Being able to have the model generate different code for these different targets is one reason why the model-driven architecture is such a future-proof and important direction. And the advantage we have is it turns out it's really hard to implement, because getting the model as complete as we've gotten it is what we've spent the last 8 years doing. So she gets the next question. Then you go.
And we got 2 minutes, unless you got that.
I'll go very fast. No, I'm impressed what I've seen and the results, what digitalization brings, and user experience first. But still, there are so many companies that are lagging, that are not changing. What do you see as the main barriers that are holding them back, and how are you going to convince them to get to the new thing?
Well, I think that's where we have to rely on folks like you to help spread the word. I think a lot of organizations have become skeptical of technology because there are so many promises and such a large reality gap between those promises and what most people achieve. I think that's one challenge, and I think the second challenge is that many of the organizations with some experience in technology are reluctant to adopt a real agile methodology. And there's such a difference between having an agile methodology and doing things in a traditional waterfall, and write the specs and program in a way that we need to get the word out that you really can get applications done very, very quickly, and then build for change so you can evolve them, as opposed to thinking that you have to do everything or nothing, which is I think where a lot of organizations are.
Yeah.
Okay, very simple one. Do you think you can get up to the revenues of Salesforce with Pega? And if you can, what's your strategy for getting there?
Well, we'll do 800 million US this year. So that's a pretty serious number. And our license line has been growing about 20% a year.
It's a lot smaller than Salesforce.
I'm sorry?
It's a lot smaller than Salesforce.
Well, no, Salesforce is bigger than that. But they've done it, and don't get me wrong, they've done a great job. But we think that with the opening of our market, opening the aperture, we think with the establishment of the easier to use system capabilities, and with the effort and time we're putting into marketing and events like this, we've never held, an event I think at this magnitude of. Well, I know we have never held an event of this magnitude scale, And the stories that people are hearing from this and the things we're going to be promoting, I think, give us an opportunity to grow beyond what Salesforce's current size is. And that's what our mission is to build this business. And by the way, for any of you, I saw you were looking at the book. I'd be glad to autograph a book for any of you, if you would like as well.
So any last words to rail against the cloud competitors as you were doing in the? I mean, just because I've got you on camera, I'll record you because it was great.
So the problem is not that there's a lack of value in cloud concepts. The problem is that many of the organizations that are offering these quick win cloud solutions are falling into familiar and ultimately devastating traps for the customers who buy them. And you can see them. What I was talking about, data replication as being something that is so frequent.
Batch processing.
I'm sorry, batch processing. I don't know how the cloud companies succeeded in convincing organizations that multi-tenancy was in their interest. Right? Multi-tenancy is not in the interest of the buyer unless they're a really small company. Right? I mean, Salesforce was came out of a small business, and because you're a small company, if you're a 50-person company, you need multi-tenancies because otherwise you can't afford the software. But if you've got a 1,000-user system, having all these other tenants on it that are sharing the system with their users isn't doing anything for you. You can create, as we do, you can provision what's called a virtual private cloud, which gives that organization its own power. But I think that somebody needs to call bullshit on some of this stuff.
That's why HP asked for
There you go.
a single tenant
Right.
instead of Salesforce for them.
Yeah, why? I mean, yeah. So exactly.
They are not multi-tenant.
But you don't have to be. The other thing that's ridiculous is, with us, if you buy our software, you can get a perpetual license and run it yourself if you want. Right? You can run it on whatever cloud you want. You can run it on our cloud, your cloud, the Cisco cloud, anywhere you want. I don't understand how some organizations think it's good to have just the ultimate in vendor lock-in. Not only do you not own or have the ability or the right to own the software, you can't even move it off of their premise, their capabilities. But the magic is such that it's almost like some of these obvious issues go unnoticed because there are advantages. It just doesn't mean we should ignore the defendable disadvantages. But you've heard my point.
Thank you.
If you guys want a book, I'd be glad.